wasn't recorded.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome to Catalyst Circle meetings Thursday, September 15th, 2022. Let's kick it off with a quick check-in. We'll start with Joey and then go to Felix.
All good here. Nothing else to report. Looking forward to the day.
Felix and then Steve.
Doing really fine as well. Just a little sad that we don't have a PA or VPA trying these calls anymore, because there are also some pretty important processes going on right now from the community, and I think would be great to respect them anyhow. And even if we don't have somebody from the PAs and VPAs to give the topic some time, because I know it goes to very close to a bunch of PAs and VPAs there.
Steve and then Kriss.
All good. Let's do it.
All right, Kriss, then Rhys.
Yeah, very good, everybody. Just had a great session with the challenge teams and helping to onboard Fund 9 and introducing some pilot processes, which I'll tell everybody about as we get into it.
Awesome. Rhys and then Quasar.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Looking forward to the call today. Quite excited to be getting this thing over the line.
All right, Quasar and then JP.
Yeah, I'm great as well. I'd like to see if you wouldn't mind making either Rhys, so sorry, dude. Rhys or Yonderlust admin to record. I'm in between setting up, moving computers here because of the water. So thank you. And yeah, I'm doing great. I've got a flooded house and air dryers.
Awesome. All right, I've made everybody co-host. How's it going, JP?
Yeah, doing good today. Apologies, guys, for it's one of those times where I get double booked in meetings between Cardano and my day job. So I'm going to be here in the background taking notes. Apologies that I have to leave an hour early today, but it's a culmination of months of hard work at a meeting today. So hopefully to get that over with and kind of be less stressed. So thanks.
All right, thanks everybody. I'm doing really good. Super enthusiastic to see you guys also pull things across the line and get this election going. I also need to leave early today. I have a conflict with a meeting with the Cardano Foundation, so I'm gonna have to jump out early as well, but hopefully we can get things going and you guys can take it across the finish line. Let's get going. So any announcements that people want to make brief to the group or share with the community?
Yeah, one announcement. This meeting is being streamed into Discord.
Nice. All right, anything else?
I've got an announcement to make. So for Fund 9, once we're onboarding funded project teams, the products and integrations challenge is going to follow a slightly different process, and they will be piloting a milestone-based funding model, meaning that the funded projects will explicitly outline what their milestones are. Be a small number, like 2 to 5 milestones probably, depending on the size and scope of the project, where it makes sense. They will identify how much budget they need for each milestone, when they're likely to deliver the milestone, and what evidence they're likely to deliver for those milestones. And at the point of when the milestone is achieved, they will demonstrate the delivery of that milestone. And that is going to then be unlocked. That is going to then be somewhat signed, if you can imagine the idea of signing in the future, what that might mean. But in the absence of signing, we will have challenge teams and then IO and community members that are going to be participating in this auditing and work, auditing and whatnot, roundtable workshops starting up in October. And we'll have hopefully people participating in helping to to verify that funded projects in that category have done what they said they were going to do. And the reason why we chose products and integrations is because they're, they're probably I say this, with some reluctance, but probably the easiest to be able to identify and define milestones along their software development journey. And I think, the reason for doing this is to really, help the community feel that each funded project is going to be accountable to being able to deliver what they say they're going to deliver.
Okay.
And over the coming weeks, we'll figure out how this maybe scales to other challenge categories and types of projects.
Thanks, Chris. I see a couple of hands up. So I've added milestone-based funding model to the agenda. So we can talk about that and have questions at that point. I don't want to make the announcements, so it's supposed to only be 2 minutes long for this meeting. So
sorry about that.
Drop the bomb, I guess. So yeah, we can add that to the agenda so we can talk about that. Any other announcements?
Yeah, I had a call last week with Sunchuka Murasaki from Imogo, speaking about Catalyst Circle, and if they would like to engage, started a poll with Swarm as well, where we had around 100 casted votes. But half of the community says they definitely want to see Imogo participating in Catalyst. The idea is already in the very beginning to introduce the circle and to introduce the idea of Imogo subcircle, which would be led by the community and closely coordinating and acting with Imogo, but to build up a little bit structure there. And then for updates for the task which I picked last Thursday, JP and Zoe wrapping their head around into the introduction of the Catalyst Circle version 4, because we have a bunch of information all around the place. What they do is bring it together and bring it on an easy understandable document. And Nadine helps us to define the checklist, everything what has to be done in order to kick off the Catalyst Circle version 4 election. But so everything before Trip drops starts to kick in. And there are some open questions, but yeah, these are for the announcement so far. And we had a really nice call yesterday with Alex Mazur from the Cardano Foundation in the after town hall, speaking about Catalyst Foundation voting on challenge settings on Project Catalyst since Fund 7. What was really well received. We had one really not happy person there, who drove a huge part of the conversation. But yeah, it was a beautiful discussion and definitely many learnings for everybody there.
Thanks, Felix. Any other announcements? Steve or Quasar, you have your hand up. You have announcements?
I do have an announcement, and this is a formality. I'm announcing that it was just announced that there's a parameter change being made with the Challenge Teams Fund 10, which I'm great. I'm also announcing that there's another group, CF rep and other people are working on planning a circle election without talking to the rest of the circle reps or being invited to participate in that discussion. Yeah, and that's the formality. So this is a formal announcement. We can address it later on.
Okay, we can add that. Election timeline and process is definitely on the agenda. Any other announcements?
There will be future announcements of announcements.
All right, let's move to the consent agenda. We have milestone-based funding model and election timeline and process on there. Is there anything else we want to add and focus on today? If not, what order do we want to take them at? Do you want to do election first and then move to the...
Steve has his hands up since a while, I think.
Yeah, I had a question for you, Felix and Kriss. And Kriss, is this products and integrations for Fund 10, is that going to get the same percentage of the funding round, or is that stuff changing?
This is Fund 9 challenge teams. Sorry, if that's what you're referring to. This is still Fund 9.
Oh, okay. You're talking about how those challenge teams are going to interact with Fund 9 proposers. You're not talking about.
Yeah, what I mean is actually we're talking about after Monday, the decisions will be made as to which projects are going to be voted for, and when we onboard those Fund 9 funded projects,
how they're going to, what they're going to have to do. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And this is, as I said, we're going to be talking about it now. I'm happy to answer any questions, but
okay. That's okay. Felix, the only question I have for you is, who was it that you spoke with at Emergo, and what's his position at Emergo?
Sunchuku Murasaki, and he's pretty much the right hand of, I would say, from Ken Kodama, who is the CEO of Emergo.
Yeah,
and
no kidding.
Sunchuku is right now, I think, in Emergo Indonesia mainly, but covers a lot of the operations of Emergo General. He's a pretty OG though.
All right, thank you.
I wrote this also in my report from last Friday, by the way.
So you can in chat.
Yeah, chat on Slack as well.
Awesome.
It was in the general chat.
All right, let's jump in. If there's no other topics, do we want to start with the milestone-based funding model? Kriss brought that up. I know there were some hands around that. Any other questions, comments?
I guess maybe just to kind of give a little bit of context as well. Perhaps next week during our working group or at that time, I can walk you through the proposed flow. We've got, and Quasar asked a question on the challenge teams roundtable we just held. Do we have the prototype tools in place for this? The answer to that is yes. We've got a statement of milestones form that is basically almost ready for prime time, and then the flow on how this process will operate this time round, certainly. But it is going to take a little bit of experimentation, but we're going to learn a lot through this process, I'm sure. And my point is next Thursday, I'll be more comfortable to show these tools and talk through the flow. Once I've had a chance to catch up with the products and integrations challenge team and just have a kind of a discussion with them exclusively.
Thanks, Kriss. Quasar, you had a question?
You're muted.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Right. Quasar seems to be having some technical difficulties. Any other comments, questions on this topic?
I mean, I certainly got a question. How do people feel about this idea?
I think it's a good sign of progress, and I'm just right now at this point of my time of being involved in Catalyst, I just want to see progress, because I think it's better that we make some decisions and then deal with, whether or not they need improvements. I'm tired of talking, so that's great.
I appreciate the confidence.
I love the take to simply go with one challenge and say, hey, let's try to set out something else as something new, because we see that there's a massive lack of documentation, and community gets quite noisy now with right to say, hey, there are a lot of funds spent to people and projects. What have you done so far? I think it's pretty definitely right. I'm not sure if it actually tackles the problem on all sides, because one of the major problems what we see is that, for example, also from personal experience, reporting and promoting your stuff and documentation, this is something people really have to learn at first. It's nothing where I say, okay, now we are funded and we have a really easy way to documentate and say what we do. So I think it definitely helps to identify spams, but it might fail to support actually proposals from what we expect them to do, maybe.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, isn't it? I think maybe by being able to at least pilot this, we can see what sort of support and additional resources are required to get people to feel comfortable with being able to do this really effectively. And maybe when I say maybe, we are going to see that there are going to be some sort of workshops. We're already seeing this from like Harry Hellier and Edify and all these sorts of incubator type mentor folks that are building content that is only going to help funded proposers, pre-funding proposers, everybody in the process to be able to understand what, and we're also going to learn from people creating these statements and milestones. What does good look like, right? We've just seen challenge teams, the LATAM and then the nation building dApps teams produce their first ROI reports, which I've got to share with you guys if I haven't already. I think I have, but if I haven't, I will. And this is creating a flag in the sand and a bit of a benchmark for others to follow, right? And this is what this pilot with this group is aiming to do: create a benchmark and a bar level standard to maybe adhere to and achieve.
Coolest thing of all is just to keep the right to experiment. And from a personal point of view, I think each fucking challenge should have their own system to report. Just figure out, just experiment and try what works to them. But yeah, not the capacity, so.
Very cool. Looking forward to seeing more next week. Anything else on this topic?
I mean, I'd say the one thing that I would like to maybe ask for your opinion on is around this idea of a moment when funded projects are going to need to demonstrate their milestones. Who should be checking on those milestones? Maybe this is one to think about, some homework. But we've got challenge teams, sure. We've got PAs and VPAs, sure. We've got community, sure. We've got IO, CF, we've got us here. But what's the right balance? And maybe maybe more accountability or more scrutiny should be placed on certain values of projects over others, right?
Mm-hmm. Rhys and then Steve.
Yeah, where you say mile-based funding models, does that mean that people would get a lump sum per milestone and that would be it until they can meet that milestone or demonstrate that they are, there to you guys? Or is that going to be something that can be, because delays are inevitable, scope creep is generally quite likely in startups and new projects? Is that something that then would hinder people getting funding over a monthly model, which is kind of what we have now? Or where do you see that balance?
I somewhat see it as a bit of a hybrid approach, right? Like, let's say a project is 6 months long and there are, let's just say, 4 milestones. The 4th milestone being project is complete, right? So there's 3 milestones in between, and let's say it's 6 months. Like, you set out your budget for what you think it's going to. You should have a good understanding of what it's going to cost you to get to milestone 1, at least. Very, very least. You still receive maybe equal monthly payments, or whatever's reasonable and relevant and feasible per month, or to get to milestone 1. You shouldn't be able to say we need 80% of the resources to get to milestone 1. That would seem like not a sensible way to distribute funding. And then at that milestone, or towards the end of that milestone, if there's a kink in the road and you need to make some sort of change request, and it's a stage gate to sort of say, well, what's going on, why, how, what, where, when, right? It just needs to be somewhat flexible so that we can understand where the kinks are. But I think the problem with the process right now, which I live and breathe every day, is reports come in, they lack evidence, they lack context, but they've sent a report in, so they should get the next month's worth of funding, right? I'm not sure that that's the right way that we should be doing this.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but some stuff might be difficult to demonstrate effectively. And so it then becomes a question of what kind of standard do you expect from people? I know like maybe a one sentence, response from anyone probably isn't enough, like fair enough. But if they're working on something that's like proprietary, or they're working on something that, they don't want to be exposing to the public until they're releasing something, how would that fit into reporting? Because that would become a bit of an issue for any project that's trying to work on something potentially sensitive.
I understand, and this is, I think, something that we need to probably hash out, and we'll hash it out through experimentation, right?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not expecting you to have the answers. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. The other thing I was thinking.
Totally understand. Totally understand.
The other thing I was thinking is who decides if any report is actually good enough? Like who sets those standards? Who's checking? I know you mentioned that before, but it's quite important to have that in place before any funding goes out. And you need to enable people to kind of fight it a little bit as well, To
be challenging. Is that what you mean?
Well, to challenge what, just call it IOGs for now, but to challenge what IOG standards of good enough reporting is, because you don't want to basically force a project to reveal more than they might be comfortable with at any given time. Not really, like this isn't a likely scenario to come up against, but I'm just playing devil's advocate with things where we might see issues that would basically stop projects from actually doing the work. The caveat to that is I know projects have literally stopped because team members have left, or because as soon as they've got funding, and it's forced projects to actually buy out work from people, and the people who've remained on a project have essentially been held to ransom by the members of the team who have left, and like it's not something that you guys need to sort out, but it's an issue that can affect projects, especially big or medium-sized teams who are trying to move on to other things and kind of move on quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I think we also need to recognize why Catalyst exists, in so much as this is a community tax-driven treasury that is being used and utilized to fund ecosystem growth. And so I totally respect that there is always going to be a slice of those projects that want to be reasonably closed to their progress because it's maybe revealing secret source. But then how do they remain accountable to the community? And if they don't want to remain accountable to the community and be reasonably open and transparent, maybe they shouldn't be being funded by a community tax-driven treasury. I
agree with this, by the way, Kriss. I'm not trying to be a knob. Like I agree with the process that you're bringing in. I'm not trying to be difficult or anything.
not at all. It's a really, listen, it's a really valid point. And
Yeah,
I think
it's just things I've seen from projects, you know, and I feel that there are issues that come up a lot that aren't really discussed amongst or with the community involved. It's very behind closed doors, and I think that's an issue.
Yeah, and I mean,
Thanks, guys. I need to hop off now. I don't want to interrupt the conversation. I think it's super interesting, but I'm just gonna say sorry for leaving so early, and continue on. You guys have the agenda. Yeah.
Have a good one, Nori.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
Does anyone have the document that they're taking notes on with this? We need to prepare for Jonathan to leave as well, so we can start documenting.
Yeah, I'll share the link in the chat, Quasar.
the only point just to sort of square up on this one is that I'm really looking forward to these working group sessions kicking off in about a month, and then we can cover off some of these points, and then it starts formalizing what we all think of this type of approach and process.
Yeah, to your question, Kriss, and I think it gets back to the heart of some of the problems that Rhys was addressing. I think in terms of like who these proposers should be reporting to, I think we have to look to the Catalyst community, right? Because we're the ones with the experience, and so on that level, Kriss, I'm curious if anybody on your team is keeping a spreadsheet on people who have been funded, right? Just that, and how many times they've been funded, because after Fund 9, we've got 8 funding rounds of people who've been funded, and I think that we can look to the teams that have been funded more than once, that have successfully completed their objectives, for that kind of support that you're talking about, interacting with these newly funded proposals. And to that last objection that Rhys raised, I think that, if you've been in the community long enough to be funded more than once, then any newly funded proposer is necessarily going to need to trust the people that they're reporting to. And so they have to show, right? It doesn't really matter if they're working on anything proprietary or not. They have to prove progress. I think, the only types of proposals that I've seen where I'm curious about this process that you're describing, Kriss, is like some proposals really need hardware, right? Like a lot of their expenses are hardware, and if they don't get the money for that hardware, then they're not doing anything anyway. So like there can't be a hard fixed amount, like you get 1/3 then, 1/3 then, 1/3 then. There has to be some understanding of their proposal in order to give them what they need to actually get started.
Yeah, that's fully understood.
And some of these guys that come in and say, well, first we have to hire 3 devs, I have a hard time with those proposals in the first place, because good luck finding them.
I mean, what I can say is, like, if I was to show you the back end of what it's like when I put forward a project proposal and request for funding to Innovate UK or to Horizon 2020, the big grant funder for the whole of Europe, I would say it's probably similar for DARPA. You have to like really get granular on your budget line spending, right? Right. Staff, equipment, travel, subsistence, materials, and licenses. You have to get granular, and we don't do that in Catalyst, for valid reasons, and we want to make this inclusive, right?
Well, and this is what
what I was just going to say, I do agree that, like, when you've got hardware-driven projects, there needs to be some acknowledgement that maybe to make any progress, you need to get those resources in place to begin with. Right. So there needs to be some reasonable flexibility in the approach. That it's not just. But if someone's asking for 80% to get to milestone 1, there's still 4 more milestones to get to.
Right.
That's when
it's tough. That's tough. Well, but this is why I think that we really have to look at the list of people who've been funded and recruit from there. I mean, if I was in your position, I would be sending out emails to those people who've been funded multiple times over the array of funded proposals that we've had and say, look, we really need some help in Catalyst. You guys have experience, you know what's being built. Can you come in and do this? You know, however often it needs to happen.
I like the idea of funded projects paying it forward and doing some review work for projects that are coming through. I think that's a great idea.
I think guilt is a powerful motivator, right? So, yeah.
Hey, so the election timeline and process, Kriss, just for your update, I've just included as an action item that you'll present to this next week at the working group to have more details, as well as you'll also share the ROI reports from the Latin group.
Yeah, I can even do that now whilst we're talking.
Okay, perfect. And Joey, I think you have your hand up.
Yes. So I'm on 2 challenge teams, and one with June Akra, she's the lead on boosting DeFi, and one on business to business, where I'm the lead. And the reason I joined as a challenge team is because I thought I'm a PMP and I have years of project management experience. And I've noticed that many of the proposers, they're entrepreneurs, they're marketing, many of them have zero experience running a project. So I felt I could help. But the frustration that I've seen in both challenge teams is that communication back and forth between the proposers. I could help a lot of these people, and we could actually maybe run interference for IOG if they were more actively communicating back to their challenge teams. You know, if like Rhys was saying, I agree, there's going to be a lot of issues. There's going to be people who they're making a living at this, they need that funding. There's a tremendous amount of issues, but if they could just talk to their challenge team, we could try to work some of those things out, and we could run a little bit of interference, but so IOG wouldn't have to deal with 1,000 or 300 proposers, and maybe we could keep the funding moving forward because we would have a better understanding of what the situation is. So somehow we've got to get that communication between the challenge team leads and the proposers operating a lot more efficiently, because it's like zero now.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. Actually, I want to have a good conversation with Cardano Foundation about if there's any sort of appetite to sort of support this type of effort, to maybe create a bit more of a cohesive relationship between challenge teams and projects. Because we just don't have the resources internally to do it within the team. And whilst we can empower challenge teams and try to improve conditions, maybe there are others that are motivated and have an interest and appetite to be involved in Catalyst that are kind of sat on the outside a little bit, like Cardano Foundation currently, that may be able to, but we're not creating any roads for their backs. We're just exploring what our ways and means to maybe think about this.
Yeah, so if I can just jump in, I know we have a couple hands up, but I think since this conversation is going to be rehashed next week at the working meeting, maybe we can put a pin in those final comments, Quasar and Rhys, unless it's super burning that it has to be said today and not next week, so we can get onto some of this election discussion, given it's very timely and we need to get it moving. So if everyone's okay, maybe we'll just move it onto the election. And I'm not sure who put this on because I lost sound, but if they want to start and kind of give a brief highlight with where we are and what the discussion is for today.
I don't need to say anything, but Quasar, if you want to just say a piece quick, mate. And then I think Zinezi has been waiting.
No, I wasn't voted in here, so I'll be quiet.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the election timeline and process. So whoever was the person who added it, maybe you can come on and give a brief overview of what you were thinking, and we can start the discussion.
I'll kick it off. Have we actually decided anything besides drip drops? I mean, you know, is there anything firm? And can we make something firm today?
The main topics the conversation was around the last times was the accountability and auditability processes, which need to somehow have a first draft on place before Kriss feels comfortable to say, oh, okay, they enable some maybe more serious resources for the Circle.
Okay, so in terms of criteria and you know, all these things kind of fit together around this one topic, you know, this topic of whether or not Circle members can be on proposals and how can they be on proposals. And at the end of the last meeting, I said, why can we not just say that for 6 months you're not on a proposal? And then everybody left. And to me, this seems like the simplest way, the simplest thing to add to a criteria. And then there's no subjectivity, there's no argumentation back and forth about whether somebody's stepped over the line. I think we can save future Circle members a lot of stress if we just say, you know, if they don't even have the problem, by saying no being on a proposal while you're being on the Circle. I mean, can we not just say that, and then we don't have to think about this other shit?
Yeah, so maybe can we put that out as a decision point just quickly, and we can wrap that up, and that will help kind of clarify. Do people think that we can that Circle reps for the 6 months that you're on the Circle will not be allowed to submit their own proposals or participate on the proposal team? What do people think about that? Don't all jump in.
I've got my hand raised. I don't know if we're doing that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on my phone and my computer, so I can't really see everything. So please feel free to self.
Well, okay, wonderful. Thank you. We can say that they Circle members can't be on proposals. If they are, they have to disclose them whatsoever. However, it is with the new parameter change that that IOG is implementing with the challenge teams in that specific fund, we have a little bit of flexibility to test out some options for the Circle and or teams to not be on proposals, because if the community is going to be providing accountability through the auditing of some of these proposals, then they cannot be on a proposal at all. And that leads us back to the monthly funding, you know, or whatever it may be, you know, as long as we can break it down and define the rate, that people would be compensated on a line item or an aggregated amount, depending on the funds and the risk of it being approved. So I think it sounds great to me.
I understand where you're coming from, Quasar. I just feel like, you know, the cycles fit, you know, the election cycle and the funding round cycle fits so that we could implement, you know, this flat out, you know, no involvement in proposals for Circle members now. And nobody's gonna have a problem with that. They'll know going in before nominees, you know, as they set themselves up as nominees, they will know, and that happens before Fund 10 even starts. And so I just feel like this is a great time to just slip in a hard rule.
Yeah. Now, can these challenge teams, these Circle reps, be parts of challenge teams that are going to be working on this monthly reporting and auditing part? That would be the ideal situation, because I don't think it's going to function very well for the challenge teams to be coming up with this, no matter how great the reporting form is, Kriss. And that's
I think it's much of a reporting form. I think it's more like, you know, you say you've got to X, you need to demonstrate it. Right?
So,
That's
you know, like,
all of this has to be created before a proposal is submitted, because, you know, where do people report their monthly? They report it back to the proposal that was submitted to see if it matches.
Yeah.
So we need people in the front end.
I think what we should I'm sorry, we'll square this away. We'll come back to milestone-based funding next week. And I'll talk you through how I sort of see it on tape.
Okay, still takes us back to defining the election, which the accountability part, what I did mentally, I tried to do it with Rhys. Rhys, I apologize for not being more concentrated and efficient with your time, but we've created a Project Catalyst GitHub that's not funded by anyone. It's for the community with these types of forms. And the idea is to use that as the place where people are reporting things. And we're generating the forms to document town halls.
So I just want to tie it back that we're still talking about Circle reps not being able to submit proposals. So can we just close up that discussion? Because I think there was, Steve is of the mind that they shouldn't be allowed to be proposers. Quasar, I felt from hearing you that there was agreement that as a proposer, there may be challenge teams or other ways through auditing to participate, but Circle reps cannot be proposers.
No, we can close that conversation, but we're not saying that.
Okay, well, that's what we were voting on. So that's what we were discussing.
Who voted on that?
That's what we're talking about right now, Quasar.
Okay, then no, I'm not going to vote because we haven't talked about the other stuff. You're voting on things that are contingent on other stuff. This is backwards.
I don't see how it's contingent. And here just to argue the point further, Quasar, like we're talking about a parameter change so that Circle members are getting paid. And to me, that implies very emphatically that, hey, this should be a big focus for you. If you're going to be a nominee and you're going to be elected and you're going to get money from the treasury, this should be a real hardcore focus, and I would say, I can't imagine what the fucking conflict could be if you're on a challenge team and you're on the Circle, but somebody will find a way to make it conflicting, right? That's just the way life is and the way people are and the way critics are. And so I would really like to say that if you're involved, if you're a Circle rep, an elected Circle rep, there is nothing else in the community you're doing other than whatever got you into Catalyst in the first place. Like if you're on the Gimbal Labs team or you're on a whatever team, it's not that you have to resign your membership or anything. But as far as Catalyst is concerned, you have nothing to divide your interest or attention or your perceived interests. And I just don't want any conflicts for the next group, right? I want to make it as clean as possible for them, that nobody can throw rocks at them, so that they can actually just focus. Because this last 6 months I think has been hell. Right. And people have had a lot of rocks thrown at them just for being in this version of Circle. And I don't want anybody else to have to go through that.
Okay. Then we're talking about the nominees being someone that is not going to be on proposals and isn't on any open proposals. So we need somebody new to Catalyst.
I guess where there's a problem is with if you get funded in Fund 9, right? Well, I guess maybe the election process, we haven't kicked it off yet.
So let's not vote on it yet. We can once we develop this conversation a little bit further.
Here, wait a second, Quasar. I think what I'm suggesting says is you have to be a seasoned veteran in Catalyst. And you have to be established enough that you do have the time and you do have the expertise and you do not have any conflicts with fulfilling the role of a Circle representative, right? And I because I think that's important. I don't want any radical newbies in here. I don't want, on the Circle. I think that they need to know what the hell's going on and they know where their conflicts are not, right? And they should know that before they nominate themselves or are nominated.
more importantly, they need to know where their conflicts are and disclose them. That's how it works in the real world.
Not very well, though.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I just
firms,
point you.
yeah.
I'll point you to the American Congress, right? You know.
Yeah, you can point to them, but I'll point you to the bar association. Attorneys are very, very strict on conflicts of interest. They disclose this stuff. Point being, can we not vote 100% flat out until we have a more conversation about this other stuff? I mean, I want to vote on it, and I want Circle being funded, and I want the right people funded that are able to be in the right place to do the right things that this new challenge, the challenge team / opportunity is presenting. You know, I mean, all this is good stuff. I love it. Like the dApps products and integrations gives us a chance to look at doing an experiment within and having multiple iterations or small variables within that challenge itself.
Keen to hear Steve and Joey's views. I mean, sorry, Rhys and Joey's views. Excuse me. I was looking at you, Steve, saying Rhys, thinking about Joey.
You can call me Steve if you want to. So I don't disagree with this idea, right? I think it's actually great, but I'm worried that it might exclude a lot of people who are already quite seasoned veterans who may already be involved in projects or maybe partially associated with projects or have already been funded for stuff that's still ongoing. And it might end up, or I'm worried that it might cut a lot of people out who would be able to contribute a lot, even if they're not directly involved in a project, but like maybe people who have been funded for other things, that then you could still say, oh, maybe that is a conflict, and it could create more opportunities for people just to throw their toys out of the pram or just like throw stones at individuals just because they've been involved in projects before. It almost makes or I'm worried that it might almost make them a bit of a target regardless, you know, and we could still do with maybe some of those more seasoned people, just like you said, Steve. And I'm not against it at all, but I think that's something to consider because there are a lot of people who are heavily involved in Catalyst who also have a lot of their own projects, their proposals, even ones that are contributing to Catalyst as well. And it might exclude, or they might feel like they've been excluded, even if they might not be directly.
I hear you. I hear you. You know, it's really hard to know what kind of numbers we're talking about and the available pool of, you know, of people who fit that description that I kind of loosely made. I think what I'm yearning for, right, is this community getting beyond process and making the debates, the internal debates that we have about direction, about content, about real, you know, the quality of what we're doing as a community, and instead of the process. And maybe I'm just impatient and trying to rush this laying the groundwork part. But you know, like in laying the groundwork, I think that simple is better. You know, simple is always better.
And actually, what I was going to say as a caveat is just to say that if you're already involved in previous stuff, then, you know, maybe you can still be considered. But if you're on the Circle, you can't be actively submitting new proposals or something like that, you know. So we do kind of stop people from getting too involved or starting something new whilst they're dedicating time to the Circle, but not stop people who have been involved in stuff already that might still be a little ongoing from actually taking part. You know, people who've been in the ecosystem for a while, who've been involved in Catalyst the last 2 years.
So if I can, I understand where you're at, Steve, because conflict has really almost torn the Circle apart this last go around, and it's been impossible for us to focus on the community. We've just been focused on internal stuff. But I agree with Rhys that, I mean, as we go through Catalyst, we all pick up different things. We become a voter, we become a proposer, and you don't let those things go. Those things accumulate and they become a part of who you are in the community. You might not propose in every proposal, but you may have a proposal that's lingering through the next fund. You know, so there's a lot of things that I'm afraid it will limit the people who will be who will want to partake in the Catalyst circle. But so it's a hard balance, you know, trying to find how you can prevent conflict so people can focus on the community and not on the circle. And so, I mean, I would vote if we were doing a preliminary vote, I would vote to not prevent people from doing that at this point, but to try to figure out a better way to enhance the people's understanding of what would be a conflict of interest.
And just to butt in, sorry, Felix, maybe that preliminary move would be saying that you can't be submitting new proposals during your term, but we would enable people who have already been involved, who have already been doing proposals, who might have some active stuff or like finishing up some works to still take part, because they will have experience that they can bring to the table and they will have an understanding of the process that new people might not. And I think that's quite important when coming into the circle as well, that you do understand the processes, that you do know how everything works. And I think that might be a good little balance to strike between, even just for a test for this fund, like Steve was suggesting. I think that might be a good move, but I think we need to be, we still need to try and keep it as open as possible to those experienced people. Sorry, Felix, for jumping in.
No, all fine. Rent really good points. And that
Let's just
definitely
let you
adds.
know I'm acting as scribe now, okay? So I'm just going to be quite quiet and just listen to what you're going to say and take notes.
Okay. From another perspective, I think whatever budget might be there for Catalyst Circle version 4, if we envision that there are subcircles, and that subcircles may have the luck to find some really good solutions for specific problems they handle. They want to go with a proposal to enable funds for this and to have the community deciding on this. I think from my perspective, it's more that the circle should be one of the sources which is maybe able to generate extremely high quality proposals. So then from excluding people from the proposer role, for me, it feels a little bit like, oh shit, this actually drives more friction than than it would maybe if we don't do it, because then we somehow handicap the circle and the reps to say, hey, you're not even we don't even want to invite you to submit proposals. So but definitely understand the point Stephen put on the table. And I think there maybe we can really do something with the election criteria, with the nomination as well. Because mostly
I think
because when you say, for example, you want to prevent circle members to submit proposals, then only to avoid the fact that this would happen if a shitty representative comes into the seat and he abuses his roles to push his own proposal forward. Right, so it would be a reaction already to an event which happened already before, where we saw already in the past there was already a lack that we didn't check nominees, that we didn't raise the bar high enough.
Right. You know, and I think the solution is that, you know, like I think that subcircles can come up with proposals and there's not a conflict. I mean, you know, like the work that Mercy subcircle did was great this term. You know, they got 2 proposals, I think, that went through that are really helpful. You know, they did valid work for improving the Catalyst experience. You know, and that didn't have anything to do with Mercy or with me serving as their proxy. You know, they did that on their own. And, you know, yeah, I've already said what I could say, so I'm sorry.
Yes, we can vote on this a little bit later. It will be voted on. We can't do it right now. Hopefully towards the end of this meeting.
Oh, we need a facilitator. Fuck off. Right, and maybe to what Joey mentioned in the chat as well, we can have a preliminary how we feel vote rather than a vote, because in any case, we should go back to our communities and asking them as well what they think about. Maybe,
So
maybe
I've
not.
got an idea for how to do that. Why don't we all in the chat put a number between 1 to 5, 1 being we really don't like this idea, number 5, or we really feel uncomfortable with this idea today, right now, in its current form. 5 being this is a really great idea, we feel quite comfortable with it. Now give us a bit of a lick it scale. How do we feel about that?
So 1 is not feeling comfortable at all, 5 is really comfortable.
I wasn't voted, Felix wasn't voted, Steve wasn't voted. Any vote that happens is not going to be recognized as legit anyway, so it's a bad idea.
Oh man,
I'm here for the CF, and this is an internal election.
Yeah, I remember the announcement they made. They told everybody that you know they chose you to represent them.
Yeah, so
Cool.
listen,
So
I think it's pretty clear that most of us think that this is we're sort of sitting on the fence somewhat. Next step should be to take this to the community. I mean, you know, looking at the conflicts of interest or the code of conduct, all of those items were run through the community already. So everything that's in that code of conduct doc has, you know, gone through a somewhat weighted process of identifying how the community feels about each one of those statements. And each one of those statements that is made it through has a weighting that would indicate the community agrees with those statements, both what people should do and what people shouldn't do. Just to bring that to everybody's attention.
I agree 100%. And has the community also went through this new parameter change with the challenge teams and this Fund 9, the dApps products integrations?
It's not a parameter change. It's more operational, Quasar. Otherwise, we're going to say that every single operation is a parameter, and that's just not how it is.
Okay, so then how do we find a way to identify and recognize the need to have an operational change request, a catalyst operations request? I like that. I mean, if you don't want to call it a parameter, that's great. We need a name for it because we want to be, I hate naming things, but we do need a document or something. Yeah, I mean, we just need something to push it through that we look at. It's a change. Parameter, operational, informational, or, you know, look at the CIP process. What are those 3 categories there? But to move the conversation forward, can we agree that voting on this is a good idea? Not voting on it right now is something that's okay?
Absolutely. I think that and that's what's sort of come out of this just temperature check, right? 1 to 5, how do we feel? No one's saying hard and fast, this is how it is. But I don't necessarily think this should be a showstopper and should stop us from pushing forward with the elections, right? In fact, you know,
100%.
Otherwise, we're just going to get tripped up by something like this, I think.
it was just an idea. I thought it might help smooth things out.
Yeah, but here's the idea. If we include it in the election process and the nominee statements or forms or in the interviews that we're doing, now we're getting it to the community directly.
Okay, so let's move on to the next thing that we need to get to the community before we can announce an election and we can actually have the vote. I mean, you know, like this is agonizing. Let's do this. So what is the next thing?
I think I've got an answer to that, Steve.
Great.
So Kriss was saying we need a way to basically show the work of the circle, a way that the circle can be audited by IOG or the community or both, preferably both. And to do that, we need to have a system for us to actually prove our work, to be reporting, but something that's available and open to the community and doesn't rely on being either controlled or like operated by a funded entity. So the solution that me and Quasar were discussing the other day, and we did a bit of work on, was setting up basically a separate GitHub organization that isn't under the umbrella of Swarm or QA-DAO or anyone else, really, just something that exists. It's on GitHub. Anyone can join, it's public, and as it can operate as, or it can be a central place for people to be directed to. It can have all of the reporting for the individual circle reps. It can have all of our meeting minutes. It can have the recordings hosted there as well. It can be displayed as a Git book very, very easily. Not the most pretty website, but something that a lot of people are used to seeing, or at least is simple enough to navigate that people can figure it out by joining. I think this is the easiest way to show the work that everyone's doing, which would then allow us to get a green light from IOG to actually have a funding parameter change to make sure that the people who replace us as the circle can actually get paid for their work and not rely on proposals, which is the situation we have now. And it's something that I think it's really important we address as soon as possible, because that is really important for getting the right people in and getting people to actually dedicate time and put in the effort required to actually work for the circle or work for Catalyst as a community. And so I think that's a very easy way to do it. We've already had GitHub being used for the prioritized problems and stuff like that, but all these things are still quite disparate. And I think that needs to be addressed, and having a single public repo with everything in it. We can have simple documentation for the circle. We can put all the links to the minutes. We can have literally the work that QA-DAO do at the minute go straight into that. We can have videos embedded in, or we can have links to them at an absolute minimum, but embedding them super easy anyway. So why wouldn't we just do it? We can also have reports of all of our work. So we can have a separate repo within it that just has weekly or bi-weekly reporting of any of the individual circle members. All of these Google Docs that are laying all over the place can actually just be put into this repo rather than living on people's email addresses and potentially getting lost or edited at any point. It would mean that it's open to everyone, so people don't need to request access to this kind of thing, which does happen quite a lot. For example, I tried to get on these slides the other day and I couldn't access it. I couldn't access the slides for the town hall. Not that that's actually pertinent, but it is an issue that comes up with all these other things. I think having a GitHub repo is super simple. People can upload files directly. You don't need to be GitHub. You don't need to be a dev or anything like that. You don't need any real technical competence. You just click upload file and then either drag and drop it onto the thing within the required folder, or you can use whatever other system you want, but you can just pop it straight in. It's really flexible. It's super easy to use. And we can have documentation on the repo that walks people through the whole process as well. So we don't have to spend time educating people about how to use it if they don't. It's a super simple process anyway, so it's not going to take a lot of work, but it's somewhere that we can, a central point, we can have a link to it on all of the town hall slides, any website, any link, any video, any YouTube or whatever. It can all point back to this central place and everything can live on it. So anyone can access it. And then there's no more, or hopefully less at least, throwing stones at individuals or questioning what the circle's ever up to, because nothing's hidden down little pathways, which it currently is at the minute. A lot of people reach out to me asking where this stuff is, and it's hard for me to find it a lot of the times, which it just shouldn't be. And I think this is just a very simple solution we can just implement straight away. We've actually already started it, so we've got it there ready if we want to actually do this. And I think it just solves a lot of problems for the circle. And hopefully it can mean that we can get an agreement from IOG to actually pay these guys too.
Who would own the account on it, do you think?
Well, it's an organization, so no individual can own it. We can have all the Circle members with their email addresses just become members of the organization. So it's really easy to do. It's not one person owns it. It's not like an individual's repo. It's anyone. At the minute, it's me, Quasar, and Andreas. It is Andreas, I think. Quasar is on mute at the minute, but I'm pretty sure it's Andreas who's on it. And he's done the Eastern Town Hall, or he's part of the Eastern Town Hall GitHub repo, which is a really, really good model for this thing.
And totally integration with dwork, which a lot of the community is used to. So,
Rhys, is that something that is going to be, like, I think someone mentioned, go from circle to circle to circle? Because we already know that Stefan and those guys worked on a lot of work over at GitHub. That's all just kind of like be sitting on the shelf now. So we'll go to your stuff. Will it be a lot more permanent?
Well, the idea is to have it permanent. So the purpose, well, the point of it not being under any other umbrella is that it's not down to funded teams or people who are in the ecosystem right now to actually manage. We can just onboard the new set of Circle reps. The auditors can also have be organization members, and then anyone can. It's just publicly viewable for anyone else in the community. But people could comment on it and stuff like that, similar to how we originally had it with our prioritized problems, but it's just purely Circle. That's what's there, and it's open to everyone. And we can just onboard the people who need to be there, or anyone else who might want to submit anything. And it would be there permanently, is the idea. We can bring new Circle members on every iteration, and then they can do the work. And we can have a full history, you know, it'll build up over time, like a full history of all the works that the Circle's done, which again, I think is really important for the community and for any poor Circle rep who has to deal with some sometimes necessary, but sometimes really unnecessary community frustration.
Right.
Auditability.
Yeah.
I say let's do it.
Sounds good to me. I'll tell you what I like about this is that, so for example, I don't know how many of you have met Jack Briggs, my colleague, in Catalyst team. So we've been working towards kind of creating more information pages towards this idea of like a governance portal, if you like, starting with information about DREPs and sort of the delegate representative process. And, you know, I don't necessarily see this as mutually exclusive from the work that Circle does, right? Actually, this possibly becomes, you know, a place where we can house all of this type of information, right? And it just becomes, yeah, a much more flexible and comprehensive place for where these sorts of minutes and decisions and meetings, info around them are all held. So I'm broadly in favor of this approach.
And also maybe to mention that this is already a pretty old thing, because Natya, she presented the whole stuff already a month ago. I presented it also already 2 times. So it's actually nice to see that we are already moving and aligning into the same direction. Then. I think that's it, right? If we want to have standard disregard, for example, to say, oh, okay, standards are mostly not established and from, hey, okay, let's all use this. Let's figure out by the people themselves which tools they want to use. But now, as we really see already, okay, PAs, NCF, and generator hosts, NSPOs already moving into the dwork. Everything there, then I think
and dwork's a great solution for having these like bounties for subcircles to do. You know, I still have a bunch of funding which I actually need to request withdrawal to put towards this kind of thing, and like for dwork stuff to get the community to work on things. And I think this is a great way just to have one central place for all of these things to be recorded, so that, I mean, we've spoken about it plenty of times on these calls. Like at the minute, everything's all over the place, and we're getting to the point where we can't even find the stuff we need to find a lot of the time. And just knowing that that's where it lives, it's organized in its respective folders, it makes it much easier to find, much easier for a community member to do their own personal audit of the work that's going on, or any kind of investigative work as necessary to find out if something naughty is going on, because obviously we want people to be able to find out if there is something bad happening within, or any decisions being made that shouldn't be, or anything like that. Like we don't know what could come up, right? So we just leave it open. And as long as we're 100% transparent with everything, then the community always have their finger on the pulse with us. And that's really, really important.
I agree. You know, and like in terms of like who cares, I think that we should do these things as if some random independent journalist wants to check up on Cardano's openness and accountability. You know, like we need to make it easy for them.
And just one thing to this point, because last week on Thursday, actually, we decided to say, oh, okay, before we expect people to do audits, accountability, whatnot, we should go as first already and figuring out from ourselves, because also keep in mind, when new Circle people come, then we introduce them to the tool sets and everything. And if we have nobody on place who actually knows what to introduce, then the best tools wouldn't have a lot of sense there. And for example, an additional thing was that people write a weekly summary. For example, everybody was agree, but didn't think I was the only one who wrote a report actually. Just want to mention, it helps really a lot, because one problem for Circle website general is to say, where's the line? Where do I differentiate general Catalyst engagement with what I do at Catalyst Circle? And just by sitting behind this exercise and say, okay, what was my mainly weekly engagement with Catalyst Circle this week? It have been done. What do I want to report next week, for example? It helps a lot already. From my personal experience, it helps me a lot to figure out already, okay, what do I report? Because I don't want to report each fucking Telegram and Discord message I send to people in regard to the Catalyst Circle, right? And with this also, maybe to explore by ourselves already, what are we able to provide? And from this experience, then what do we expect other people? Because right now, we don't do anything, let's say, strongly in our side to really improve this. And then we are speaking about tool sets and theories before testing them in real and battle-proof them by ourselves.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, Felix, I mean, for everybody else's benefit, I'm sort of not required, but I'm expected to do weekly reports on my weekly activities just within work as part of Lattice, which is an integration with Slack. If anybody's ever come across it, so it's a similar sort of thing,
Kriss,
reporting on what it is I actually did.
Do you think you could, maybe not, I guess it's not public stuff, but
no,
maybe
I can't.
just to give an idea how they look like a little bit, on which points do you have to, or do you report facts?
It's actually like, you know, it's really simple. It's like, what were your main focuses and priorities that you worked on this week? What, did you have any problems? Do you need any help with anything? And then when you submit that, it's, obviously I work for a company. It should be being reviewed by my line management, right? Or my reporting lines. And, it's for sort of professional development as well, right? Like the more context I give, the more stuff that I can say that I've done. I've got a track record and a log of, sort of personal OKRs and personal growth development focuses and stuff. And this is a great way to be able to track it. And I've got to say, I'm not even the best at doing it, because I sometimes get a bit busy. I've made time, and then,
So maybe we could just make it a requirement that people already have to be developed before they come here.
No,
that was a joke. That was a joke.
Okay.
Oh, at least Catalyst Circle hasn't lost its sense of humor.
I think it could be a very simple process, and we've already had stuff like this put in place, right? To some extent, so we can easily just take it or make a template of it, put it as part of the like README, or like literally call it template as a document on the repo, and then anyone who goes there can just see what the template is and then just copy pasta and fill out the blank spaces, you know. So we have it as simple as possible, and we can figure that out between us, you know. Maybe we can iron it out, or we can come up with templates from what already exists, and then in the working meeting or something like that, we can actually figure out what's relevant and what's just unnecessary or too granular or not enough, you know. We can figure those things out, and it's important that we do that, right? Just like Felix said, we need to be having that standard. We need to kind of start bringing that in for ourselves before we can expect people to follow suit, but we can also do that very easily. And,
yeah,
that,
and who else
that's not going to be a big
benefits?
obstacle.
It also benefits funded proposers to see this sort of level of work and reporting that's being done, that then they can maybe learn and improve and take to heart when they're doing their reports and progress reports and whatever. We've got to live and breathe it, guys, right? Everybody's got to do this.
Yeah, I agree.
Good.
Okay.
One thing I think we do need to do then is somewhat sort of formalize what this, and we've got the accountability model, we put it into the notes last time. It would be great to kind of come up with like a document that just copy pastas from what we've already done and then sets out how we're going to do this with the tools, right? That'll be
one thing I'd say is if you guys have any links to stuff or anything like that, if we can start to get them all together and kind of put them into this repo, like this README, then we can start getting through that. I'm quite happy to put time in figuring that kind of stuff out over the next week or two, and have it ready, or sooner ideally, like a week would be good, so that we can actually come to the next working meeting and have stuff in place so that you guys can all review it and you can say, that's good, that needs to change, this needs to be adjusted, or whatever, you know. We can get that kind of feedback and start iterating on it rather than just talking about it. But my point is, a lot of these things already exist. We just need to get them into a public space rather than it being on people's Google Drives.
Okay, so is there an action there?
Yeah. If we can aggregate the any doc or any Google links or anything like doc links that we've been working on, if we can get them all together, we can. I can do it. I don't mind. I can get it all on the repo.
Yeah, and you've got the accountability document that's separate, and that'll give us the outline. We put that in the README.
Yeah,
I have templates already in dwork for Catalyst Circle through Hard Fork. We've got a Project Catalyst community GitHub. I feel like we'll probably need a Project Catalyst community GitHub to create a dwork organization for it, to add the circle under there. It can easily merge the templates.
Yeah, I mean, well, so that's what we have, Quasar, isn't it? So
yeah, it's just there.
Maybe that's something that we can do then. Elias can help.
Yeah, I'll tell you what will be awesome. Let's do this maybe for the next working group if everybody's up for it. Can we just have a quick demo and we'll record that demonstration of what this tooling is, how we interact with it, what we intend to do with it. And then as far as I'm concerned, we've bottomed it out.
But yeah, Chris, awesome. I can send you demos right now.
No, I think we should do it. We should do it as a part of the working session, and then, you know, have it formalized this way.
Okay, I like that. Can we do that as a formal process, but go ahead and start reaching to the community to ask for nominations and nominee statements?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, this like, okay, so that accountability model table that we put together last week, the action on me I'll do this. I'll put that into a document that we're saying this is the accountability model. I'll add in some information about the GitHub that we're planning on using based on our notes. If you guys can add any more color to that document once I'm done, and then we've got essentially a motion statement on how we're formalizing the accountability model. If we're kind of all agreeing to that and there's no concerns or qualms, then I'm pretty happy with how things are.
Okay, awesome. And that you're pretty happy with where things are in order to, one, start saying to the community, please, dear God, join the circle, you'll love it. Take nomination statements or nominee statements, and two, get a much closer to going to IOG for a parameter change to fund the circle. I don't want to say that.
Operational change. Operational.
No. It is a somewhat parameter change, right? Because we have discussed like this they're not being a referral reward. Well, I think what Quasar's talking about is Quasar's talking about the parameter change for products and integrations moving to milestone-based funding. That's an operational change, right? That's kind of separate to this conversation. Let's not conflate the two.
Well, no. I specifically said parameter because of the operational. So now we've actually identified even more stuff. What is a parameter? What's operational? Now, how do we do it?
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. We're improving.
I apologize.
We're building, testing, and learning.
My default setting is conflation, so I'm sorry.
but I guess can we just so we're really kind of clear because we haven't actually looked at that accountability model table. Can we just have a quick look at that now? And then let's just see if there's anything on here that we think, I think one of the actions was, does anybody have any other sort of activities that take place that we want to log on this accountability model table that we think is relevant to talk about what it is we do, how we report it, where we record it, that kind of thing. If we could just spend like 10 minutes looking at that right now.
Do you have the link again?
It was in like the notes from like last time, right?
Yeah, Rhys and I made a copy as well.
Someone can bring it up. That would be sweet.
I don't have that actual document link, but I do have.
You sent it directly.
I do have
to
a copy.
Me,
what I have is I basically, when me and Quasar were talking, I just took the accountability model in the table out of that document and put it in something separate because I was struggling with access for like changing stuff. So I have that, and I'll share that with you guys.
Okay.
And you can all help yourself.
Okay, cool.
But it's just that, not the minutes or anything like that, the agenda from the working group.
It's this one here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the one.
All right.
Oh, never mind.
Okay. So I think what we sort of said, and is that the full table, is it, Felix?
Seems to.
Yeah. So I think what we, here we go. So we did have, the motion was just raised to write a weekly report. Right, that's essentially what Felix just sort of said, and everybody here seemed to think that was a good idea. Doesn't necessarily need to be. I mean, how long does that take you to write, Felix?
I think on the beginning it takes a longer time. It took me anyhow around 20-30 minutes because you really have to think about shit. What do I actually put here? This takes the most of the time, but I think over the time it's getting easier. And I can count on what I do here. So I have all my backup for what I do in regard to Catalyst Circle, everything on DWOC. So it's quite more comfortable to get to
right. And Felix, you're making notes as you go through your week then, right? So that you're not having to remember shit, right?
Yeah,
So,
because
okay.
mostly if you don't note it for 1 week, the next week it's forgotten already.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
This is really really a thing.
I think in this table, you have a lot of things like Twitter spaces, town halls and stuff. Like these kinds of things will often already have links that can be embedded straight into your report, where you can just make a couple of bullet points that cover the broad topics, and then any detail can be delved into properly. Some stuff, obviously, like one-to-one meetings and stuff, that might be a little more private a lot of the times. So I agree, maybe recording that would just be a summary after the fact. But I think all of these are pretty reasonable and would be very easy to have in a report in GitHub, where this like links and artifacts things is. It'd be easy to get hold of this stuff. So I think that's a really good solution.
I love it. Be really keen to like square away these question marks and just change them to what we say we're gonna do it on.
Well, I shared the link to that the kind of start of that GitHub organization, so we can put that as a place. And if you guys are doing anything and you're going to include that, you can just make a like a text or a markdown file, or I can set up a template of that within a respective folder to make it really easy for anyone to put that kind of information in. So yeah, I think it'll be very easy for us to implement this.
All right. Is that 2 things in a row that we've all agreed on? Can that be? Is that possible?
Can we just break a record?
Oh my God.
I think what we definitely should do each time when it comes to new tools, there's really a fair amount of time which is needed to onboard everybody to the tools and to make sure everybody's on the same page, everybody feels comfortable to use the tools. And this mostly requires really some time. So it's nothing to put on, yeah, this is tertia or whatnot. Really important. So it would also count for us, each other already. Because not everybody feels fine with Discord, dwork, things and stuff.
So when we're saying constant record, do we mean like tasks written into dwork or something like that, right?
Exactly.
Like a kind of Kanban, right?
Exactly. So usually, very often, on one say you can say, okay, you plan tasks, and when there are tasks which appear, for example, and you say, cool, okay, this wasn't planned, just try to capture it anyway, and just put it then into backlog or to do. Or this is, for example, the call for right now. So this one put in. Progress.
So let's just go back to the doc. So then this is like tasks logged on dwork. It's like a Kanban process, right?
Canvas,
100%.
Actually, what is really beautiful with this, it's more like a transparent and public project management. Because I think this has, in our case, the most of the value, because what you need to do once you're on your board, you just copy the link, put it in the live chat, and everybody can look on it. Another thing what is extremely interesting as well, as people then start to use dwork, dwork has really a beautiful feature. Screen is lagging, give me a second. Because it creates user profiles for each of the people which engage. Which use the platform. Okay, there we go. Let's say, for example, okay, takes the time to load. Shows me already in which other projects I'm on or involved. And let's give it a second. And when people then come, for example, and say, show me this one URL with which I can prove whatever you have done, then you have this one, right? And there it just tracks the hell out of everything what you do. It links directly the tasks and the people which have been involved for everything. So this is really a massive, massive advantage.
So just really quickly, what's the blockchain component to DWORK?
DWORK, it's currently built on Ethereum.
Yeah. What are you doing? Like, you're essentially, what are you hashing?
When I say, for example, let's say I want to create a bounty. And what I can do, for example, if I have my wallet login, I directly can add the amounts, for example. Then when you say, for example, there's a subcircle and the subcircle has a budget, then you can say, oh, okay, you can directly add tokens. For right now, you can see it's only Ethereum. There's no Cardano integration right now, but it has a bounty board integrated in the whole thing. So another thing what it does as well, each task is minted as an NFT on BlueSea. So each of the tasks, where is it? Each of them which are done, where can you get the...
And we've got a Cardano wallet compatible part. So we got
so then for
data
example,
wallets attached.
Each task, each bounty is minted as an NFT directly as well. And yeah, directly with a link to it as well, where you can go back. So
it's like a POAP. It's from POAP, Kriss, if you're familiar with that.
Can you put the link to that on just the Circle Slack? I'd like to dive in a bit more. Cool. Okay.
And that's the reason why we maybe should have 1-2 workshop sessions simply about the tooling. Just say, okay, which tools do we look on right now? How do they actually work? Let's share already the experience and the expertise which we have built so far between everybody equally. And from then, everybody on the same page. Hey, cool, let's move forward then.
Oh, man, you son of a bitch. I finally found my Bluetooth headsets. Whew.
Okay, so just coming back to this this doc, can we? So what are we saying then? All the, but let's just run through these question marks. Oh, the only other line to write in here, I think, was around one-to-ones, which Rhys just mentioned. Oh, no, sorry, you just mentioned it.
Kriss, you're a little far with the mic.
Sorry. Let me switch my camera off so it's not sorry. It was around the one-to-ones, wasn't it? We're going to have a line in there just to start appreciating that things are maybe sensitive, but you'd still want to have a record of one-to-one.
Oh.
Definitely, I think so. Because even if you track all the stuff, it becomes almost impossible for people which are not involved there to understand what is actually going on. I think the sense of the report then in this base does not go in each of the rabbit holes, does not need to touch on all the tasks because the tasks are already there, this data is there, but to wrap the data into consumable format somehow. So say, what are you up to with all these tasks? What is your main goal? What are your intentions? What not? No, not intentions and no. But yeah, you know what I mean, I hope. Yeah, the summary, right?
Do we just want to make an explicit row to say, you know, if there's a one-to-one meeting, you know, you just lightly summarize a discussion or something like that?
What if the person doesn't want to be named?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's kind of fair. I think I'm worried that my concern is that a Circle rep has 12 private conversations across the week and doesn't report
they do that.
because, you know, they doesn't report anything, which means that effort and work can't necessarily be verified.
I think if they're talking to somebody that they don't want to name, then they have to be more effusive about what the conversation was about, you know, and why, you know. And I think there's
Yeah,
more
I mean, ultimately,
expectations in it.
Yeah, Circle is about problem sensing, and there should be a,
Mhm.
you know, it shouldn't be Chatham House rules necessarily, should it?
Well, I don't know those rules, but I mean, you know, they should at least describe the person, you know, the validity of having the conversation. You know, that should be there.
Yeah, Chatham House rules just means just between you and me, no one else.
I have those all the time.
Yeah, Chatham House, you can talk openly about the discussion that was had, but you can't name names. So you can't say this person was saying this. That stays anonymous, but you can talk about the discussion quite openly.
The fact that they always wear hats, right? You can say that.
Well, yeah, that's important, I think.
Yeah.
Should we just quickly capture that, Felix, since you're in the doc? Just as another row.
And we will include a section for some emerging methods. Anytime you start doing things like this, the community comes up and says, "Oh, we can do it this way." So we can document that. It allows for a standards of emergence to naturally grow as well.
Shit, I muted. Just how do you call this? Protecting participants' privacy? But for which one? DWOC, weekly report or monthly report?
Oh no, I'd say it's a separate row. I think we create a new row.
Okay. Or just as a note, in general, make sure that participants which want to stay private do so, because this would then fit to everything. Maybe.
Yeah,
Asterisk.
And that leads to a greater conversation at another time of how does the community communicate anonymously yet verifiably to the larger community, to the circle. It's something that several of us have been working on. It's a way to create a place for someone to raise issues and it go through a filter of Discord servers that are credentialed. And that way the topic can be submitted without putting anyone in danger.
Then we have 15 minutes left as well. What do you think about some action items? Because maybe one call, 1 hour call to go through DWOC. Can set up a test server simply for this, just to get everybody warm.
Sure.
Cool.
Say when.
All the time. Oh my God, this is now the ugly part, is how to find times. Oh my God.
Well, yeah. Before the meeting's over, whatever, I want to start telling the community that we're accepting nominee statements, create a template or something for people to input their information. I want to do this specifically for Sunday for the 24-hour governance fest, because the circle needs to be there. We're beginning with a very specific conversation on governance. You all should come, in that beginning hour, or tell me when you can join and we can make it a special session.
What time is it, Quasar, just to be clear?
For you, starts at 11 UTC. Then it goes until 11 Sunday, 11 UTC to Monday UTC. So
You're saying you want me to wake up at 6 o'clock on Sunday morning?
no,
That's
sir.
what you're saying. Did I get that right?
No, sir.
That's what 11 UTC means.
We have keynotes during that time that'll be speaking. So
And
Circle
What
would
time
be
should the
better.
panel be? Yeah, what time would the panel be?
Well, that panel, that specific one, that's not Circle related, but just deliberative democracy, representative democracy, and processes. That one is the kickoff. That's 11 to 12. I'll share. I need to pull this up anyway. In just a minute.
So it's a DREP panel 11 till 12. Yeah.
There is.
Governance marathon begins at 11 UTC, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, maybe we can just semi-commit, well, we're not semi, let's just try and figure out what time's a good time to do it for the Circle on Sunday. And then if we can all commit to it now, I mean, it's only 4 days away, right? 3 days away, so.
And
I'll be there whenever we have it, whenever everybody else can. I can do it.
Mm-hmm. Rhys, are you going to be around?
I'm away, but I can make time for it. So I will.
I ask and you say no. Kriss ask and you say yes.
Well, I
don't know.
I like Kriss more. That's all Quasar stuff.
It's nothing personal. He just likes
I do
it.
too.
Yeah, it's not personal. It's just that I like him more than you. That's all. But it's definitely not personal. That's all. Just want to make that clear.
Just remember, this is recorded, folks.
Right? Yeah, you have to follow up, Rhys. You know, follow up.
Yeah, well, I it's important if we're all going to be there and we're going to talk about this kind of stuff and we're going to commit to opening nominations for Circle reps, then it's important that we're at least as many of us as possible can be there, right? So I can be a part of that.
Right. And how long is nominations going to be open for? Because we should really make sure that in Town Hall there's a section for this week coming up.
Yeah.
How long should the nominations be open for?
Yeah.
Well, we're looking at doing voting over a 3 epoch period or a 2 epoch period. So once we identify the best time to do that to the Circle voting, we can work backwards and identify the right time to leave nominees open. I mean, I'd leave it open until, so voting ends. I'd leave it, we have to leave it open until after the results.
Yeah, I mean, that probably makes sense.
Yeah, I think a week.
That's all happening next week, right? So
yeah. So unspecified date, but after that.
okay.
But the results, Kriss, the results are 2 weeks in process, you know, like 2 full weeks after voting closes. Is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. It'll be sometime, not next week, the week after. And you know, it'll be as soon as it is. It's normally on Thursday or Friday, right? So I imagine.
Oh, hey, Kriss, by the way, you said you would do the keynote on Monday, like the closing on Monday. I have you Monday at the end.
Yeah, happy to do that, no problems.
Which is still your morning.
Yeah, it's 10:45 my morning or something like that, right? Yeah, happy to do that. I guess it should just be. I'll come up with something.
I'll write I'll write it for you.
Somebody wants to be a nominee, somebody wants to nominate, where do they do that? Do we have that location settled?
Yeah, not yet, because the last time we discussed, okay, maybe let's use the Cardano forum for it. On the Cardano forum, the problem is you can't down or upvote things and stuff. You can simply use the likes. The thing what you can do on Cardano forum is a poll. Because I think mainly it was to have this quality check to say, oh, okay, we want to filter out some of the nominations which might not fit to the requirements, because there will definitely be some. So to filter them out before they come to the TripDrops voting platform then, where actually voting starts then. And yep.
So just before we go too much further and go off topic, when should we do the circle panel on Sunday?
On Sunday, the circle panel. Okay. I'll be there the whole time, so it's really up to Joy, Steve and Felix. You know, I mean, and actually I have the 12 p.m. Honestly, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. your time, Kriss, is still open, and we could go on into there. And even in the afternoon, your time would be good. So it's up to you.
Well, I think for Steve and Joey to not have to wake up crazy early and be on the A game on a Sunday morning, why don't we make it in the afternoon UTC?
Okay.
I can do that. I wake up fairly early anyway. I was just giving Quasar shit. So, I mean, I can be there whenever y'all can.
Well, that would go right into the Atala identity. So that's actually gorgeous. It'll be Tony Rose.
What time do you want to say? Pick an hour, guys. Come on.
I'm an early riser too, so.
Okay. Well, so why don't we do it 12 to 1 then?
Okay, that's good.
12 to 1 UTC?
That's easy, yeah.
Yeah, does that work for you, Rhys, Felix?
I'm off the weekend.
Say it again, Felix?
I'm off the weekend.
Okay, great.
You send round the links, Quasar?
I'd be happy to.
All right.
Well, which links specifically?
To get onto the to get into the governance marathon. Or is it just going to be a Twitter space? Or what's the
Yeah. No, we're going to create a flyer, and it'll have the attendees. It'll be on Twitter. It's going to be streamed to Discord, also probably YouTube. So it's going to go all over. But yeah, I will send you the links, the invites.
I will invite and check if Alex could join then maybe.
Links. Okay, and then so Quasar, you're going to create the nomination template for socializing on Sunday.
Wait,
sorry.
Wait, the nomination template, this was last week discussed where I took the action and said this is something where we want to have the community involved. And there are actually people already writing on it now. It's not finalized, but I think it's definitely not finished until Sunday.
Could you share it with us, as other circle members?
Well, I got the document today, but definitely. Just send it over to another person as well to review. And I would present it next week when this thing is ready, because there's a shitload of information across a bunch of meeting notes and whatnot that I have to find together.
Wonderful.
And community members are voluntarily working on this, so do not stress them. Be happy already that I engage and that I put it forward.
Yeah. No, I mean,
so here's an idea then, guys. Why don't we announce that the Thursday, and we have that as the goal for opening nominations? That's pending review from all of us up until that time. That gives us a week to kind of agree on things being done, but we can still announce that it will be opening so that we can still bring stuff when lots of people are listening and engaged in Catalyst. Yeah, so even though it's not technically open then, what we can do is still get people in, get the interest driven, kind of get people engaged with this process as early as possible, or at the perfect opportunity, and just say, like, people have already been working on it in the community. We're going to be putting time in up until next Thursday to have it finalized, and then we'll be opening it up then. But does that sound all right?
100%. I think people can still put their name, we can still collect people that are looking to be nominees.
I just think there's no point in rushing. Like, if Felix has only got this now, everyone's been putting in their own time. Like, there's no point in rushing them now just for the sake of hitting it Sunday. But what we can do is say, look, next week it's going to be up, it's going to be live. So make sure, if you're interested in nominating yourself on the space, then be ready for the Thursday announcement, or Friday morning, or whatever, however it works. And then we've got a hard deadline for ourselves, and we know it's actually opening and moving forward, because I think we're all ready for this process to start happening.
100%. And I mean, that's assuming that that the work that Felix and his team is doing, once we review it, who knows how long it'll take us to actually refine it and approve it. So
yeah, well, if we say we got a week, I'm sure it's already in a pretty good state anyway. There probably isn't going to be a lot for us to do. It's just for the sake of us looking over it and all going, yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Or maybe change that word there slightly,
So on that then, do we want to, if we're going to be talking about and making some announcements at Town Hall on Wednesday, should we run an after Town Hall together?
I can't make the town halls because of because I work, but I think it's a great opportunity to do it. If some of you guys can turn up, then absolutely, yeah.
Same like for Sunday, right? Not everybody can be always anywhere, and we wouldn't require, it shouldn't require from everybody being always everywhere. Some people can join there.
It's the voting. It's the day we're voting. It's a marathon. It's a special occasion. We're not requiring everyone to be everywhere. If you don't want to participate in it, don't. Like, it's cool. It's an event. It's a party. You just voted, Kriss. You're muted.
Kriss, you're muted.
It sounded good.
Just talking about, hey, Lorenzo, give everybody a wave. This is Lorenzo, everybody. Hello. Design new product, design me. That was the circle.
Okay. Yeah, I think
we got loads of homework for him.
Got loads on at the moment. Okay, so just coming back, because obviously we want to close down in just a sec. What we could do, another idea to think about, is maybe we could present these ideas as part of Town Hall, main Town Hall, and then tell everybody we're going to run an after Town Hall next week, like as in the following week. And that way we can kind of prep a little bit rather than trying to just do everything in the next week. What do we think about that? Guys?
So
well, I'm thinking.
I'm sorry.
So then you say to go for the town hall thing on Wednesday, September 28th.
Yeah, so we have 21st would be, whoever wants to present at Town Hall this week, talking about what we've done this week and all this great stuff. But obviously it's a tiny little segment of Town Hall, with a view that we then promote that we'll have an after Town Hall session with everybody from Circle reps currently that can participate if they're available to host an after Town Hall room where we're going to invite Q&A and we talk in a bit more detail about what we're actually going to be doing with CCv4 and the accountability model and what it means and why we're doing that.
I think if that's not going to stop people from nominating themselves or putting themselves forward to be part of the circle, then yeah, absolutely. Because if that's just essentially like an after town hall workshop where you talk about us implementing this accountability and the reasons why, you know, so that we can be more transparent with the community and so that we can have this change or this agreement with IOG where circle members are paid, then I think, yes, that's a great time to do it. That stuff doesn't necessarily need to be in place for people to start getting nominated. But it also shouldn't be holding up nominations either. Just like postponing it another week, I think we're pushing it very fine to actually have drip drops be able to implement it, actually have a vote, have a nomination period, and we're just losing weeks very quickly before the next fund starts. And that's my only concern. That's all.
Yeah, I think that what I'm thinking about maybe delaying the after town hall session by a week is just that if we make some announcements on Wednesday in town hall, and then people watch it on YouTube after the fact, and then they decide that they would really like to be part of that conversation, they've got the next week that they can look to make time to come and join us in after town hall to ask questions and find out.
So when do we have a date? Do we have a date on Fund 10 starting?
Last week of October.
So it is that late. Okay. So then I'm fine with that.
So October 31st.
For me, as long as the circle election is finished before Fund 10, I think we're good. You know, I think that's fine.
Okay. Anybody else got, anybody got any objections for us running the after town hall a week on Wednesday, so the 28th?
Just to confirm, Fund 10 is starting the last week of October, roughly?
Yeah,
so
October 26th currently.
Okay, right. And don't, hold anybody to that. It could change.
Yeah, I mean, that's the current schedule.
But just to put that in context, that gives us just realistically about 5 weeks to have a vote done. And maybe that's 2 or 3 weeks for drip drops to do the work their end, assuming that they can put the men in at the time. And we need at least a week of nominations before that. So that's 4 weeks and then 1 week to vote, which means we are actually in a hurry to get this agreed and get this put forward as soon as possible. So if we can have that done for next Thursday so that we can open nominations, then that's already pushing the deadline, and realistically it needs to be that far, but we need to kind of light that fire under our asses and get this fucking over the line because we are running out of time. For Felix, forgive me, thank you for all the work that you're doing and the volunteers that they're doing and everything. Yeah. Rhys and I, we have funding left, so we have people that will help us kickstart and get this through. We'd love to help, what your team is doing. We don't want to take it away from them, but we're here for each other. And I'm happy. I've got a bit of funding left for the rapid funding mechanism. I'm happy to put that forward for bounties to help get people who have put their work and their time in to actually compensate them, because they deserve to be compensated for the work they're doing as well. And I understand that nothing should be done for free because that's not fair on anyone.
Yep. Rhys, let's definitely catch up on this.
100%.
So
on that, guys, I do need to shoot because I've got a class starting in 25 minutes. So I've got to go. But thank you all so much for today. We're making progress every time. It's fucking good. So let's just keep up the momentum and get this sorted.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rhys.
Have a good one, guys.
And
I'll see you on Sunday.
And we are 6 minutes over time already.
Yeah.
So I have to jump off as well then.
Yeah, okay. This just to square away. We're all going to send, or whoever's got access to templates, we're going to send these to Rhys for the templates that will be used for GitHub reporting. Felix, you're going to find time soon to run the DWork workshop for us. Felix and team will finalize the nomination template for ideally for socializing next week, Thursday. Quasar is going to share links and invites to the governance marathon. As many of us are going to rock up at 12 to 1 UTC on Sunday. I'm going to work 10:45 to do the keynote on Monday. We're all going to plan to announce nominations open next Thursday. We'll do that on Thursday, hopefully, or we're going to do it at Town Hall. September 21st Town Hall, we'll be discussing in a very sort of high level for the small segment, process accountability model, etc. And then the following week, on the 28th, we will do a panel discussion after Town Hall, and then Rhys and Felix are going to catch up about bounties. Those are all the actions, folks. All good?
Did you write that in the document that
it's in the meeting notes for today.
Olga, you're a great scribe.
Yeah, thanks, Kriss.
Thank you for everybody's hard work.
We dropped those notes again. I had to switch on so many devices.
I'll do it.
Thank you. So Circle is Sunday. You said 11:45 or 12?
Well, Circle panel is 12 to 1 UTC on Sunday.
UTC. All right.
And then I will be with you 10:45 UTC. I mean, I'll be with you probably a little bit beforehand.
Yeah, I'll get in there when it starts.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it's fun. It's a banter, celebration. Come and go. Some specific topics at certain amounts, and it's very engaging. It's very democratic, this Twitter stuff.
Well, in a mob sort of way, but yeah.
No one's laughing. All right. Didn't get that.
All right. I'll see you guys.
Take care, everybody. Great work.